Alright, it's been some time since we created a video here, so I'm going to get into it. So a customer calls up and claims that they have no heat. These are one of these newer townhomes, so we go into the townhome and we notice that, yeah, they have one of these high velocity systems. And it's made by High Velocity Systems here in Alberta, Edmonton, Alberta. We're in Toronto, by the way. And yeah, these are the HEZ series, claiming that they're very high efficient and whatnot. So they had this installed about 4 years ago, and it's not under warranty. We went and looked at the unit. We noticed that this VFD controller, which controls the circulation fan, is not operating. There's no power to it. So we suspected the VFD is bad. We called up High Velocity and said, hey, we need a new controller. They told us to call a third-party company like Wolseley. Wolseley quoted, I think it was about $650 plus taxes for this controller. So we're like, okay, whatnot. And it would take a couple of days to come in. In the meantime, we took this out and we brought it back to our shop, and we're analyzing it to see what's going on. This is made by WEG. Now, so this is a WEG VFD. Let me try to see. Yeah, there we go. So you can see the line voltage is 110, 11.5 amp, and the output is a 3-phase 2.6 amp. So what this controller does is it takes the 110 voltage, converts it to 3-phase, and pushes it out at 220. So once we got this controller in our shop, took it apart, and we noticed that, yeah, the thermistor's gone. Thermistor, voltage protection, current protection for the board. So that means that this unit was drawing too much amps, obviously. Right? Remember, this unit is rated at 2.6 amps. So we started to size out the fan motor, and we noticed that the fan motor was rated at 3.7 amps. It was a 3/4 horsepower 3-phase motor. I'm like wondering, okay, what's going on here? Normally you wouldn't ever size a VFD, undersize it, comparing to the motor. Typically if the motor is running at 3.7 amps, you'd have that VFD, at least 4.5 around there, right, to make it more equal. So contacted WEG, asked them in regards to what's going on here. They say that the High Velocity Systems, they ordered these units to be paired with their motors, and they have no opinion on why it's undersized, right, or why the amperage is so low. But typically, rule of thumb, you would always size up these VFDs at a higher amperage. So here where it says 3-phase 2.6 amps, you would rate it at a higher amperage than what your motor is running at, so they don't burn out. So once we hooked up the thermistor, put a new one in, powered it back up, we had an error code, E000, so it was E00, and that indicated that there was a short on the phase. The phase was shorted, one of the phases. So we went towards the igbt. After testing the igbt, we noticed that there was a fault on the igbt itself. You can see, maybe you can see it in here. It's right in between the heatsink and the board. It's like soldered in. Here's the old one. And yeah, one of the phases was actually, one of the connections here were actually short once we tested with our multimeter. And we ordered a new one off of Mauser. Let's see if I can get part number here. So there's the part number, Mauser part number, manufacturer part number. So Frank Sam 6R06 Victor Edward 3_B2. So this IGBT module we had to order from Mauser. It took about 4 days to come in. Popped it in, and everything's good as new. Everything's running properly. It's running adequately. So the only question I have, this would be to High Velocity Systems, which is like a really big company, and it's a Canadian company apparently that manufactures all these units. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's pretty great that we actually have something in Canada being produced. But I gotta ask them and say, hey, you know what? You guys are aware of this. You guys are aware that you're undersizing the VFD controllers for the motors, and you know you're giving customers maybe a 3-year warranty on them because you know that these things are going to burn out. The programming parameters for this as well, you know, you got to plug this in and you got to program about 300 different parameters. When we started looking at it, we noticed that the programming parameters were set at, you know, much higher amperage rating. Like the overload was set at about 3.5, and the output current for this VFD was set up at 3.9. Then again, this is only a 2.6 amp rated VFD. So why are you, telling the controller to push out a higher amperage than what it's rated for? Anyways, I'm sure they're aware of it. This is something that they should correct. But if you guys are having problems with your high velocity HE7 systems or any other furnaces that you guys are running on VFT instead of the ECM units, I will tell you that you should try to see if it's sized correctly, right? If it is undersized, you'd have to probably replace it with a properly sized VFD controller. This unit here, we're not gonna put it back into the customers. We're ordering another VFD, not from high velocity or anything like that, but we're gonna put a third-party VFD in it to get this going for the customer, right? Because even if we put this back in with the parameters, even if we lowered it a bit, it doesn't make sense, right? Like I said, the ventilation motor is running at 3.7 amps, right? 3-phase 220. And yeah, this will reoccur again. This will overheat. This will burn out because the capacity for it is not rated for that motor. Again, you're overworking this unit, right? But probably use this for something smaller, maybe another 3-phase induction motor that I might have laying around the shop. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave your comments below. I'll take a look at it, and again, I apologize for the camera. I'm using my Samsung S5 here, and we gotta invest into a proper camera so we can do better videos here instead of having it shake all around. Talk to you soon. See ya.